Insider buying is surging, and legendary investors are piling into one specific gold deal, where the founders have already earned investors 500 and 900% gains on their two previous companies in the past 11 years. Now investors like founder of Pan American Silver Ross Speedy, Rick Rule of Sprott Asset Management, and legendary fund manager and resource stock picker Marin Katusa are taking a stake in this new gold company. Insiders own 40% of the company. This is the gold play you don't want to miss out on. Learn more at futuremoneytrends.com/insider. Greetings and thank you for joining us at futuremoneytrends.com. I'm here with a legendary investor, someone who's been a very pleasant guest on the show in the past. I haven't talked to him in about a year. Mr. Jim Rogers, chairman of Rogers Holdings. You can also find the many books that he's written at jimrogers.com/books. Some of my favorites, Adventure Capitalist, Street Smarts, and a personal favorite is A Gift to My Children. Jim, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm delighted to be here, Daniel.
Jim, a lot of people are getting concerned about the economy because of the major indexes are falling. Gold is rising. But, you know, we've been through this so many times before where all of a sudden the debt is spotlighted, the bonds, the unsustainability. What is different about now? Is there anything different about right now in 2016 than in 2009 or 2000?
Well, the difference in 2009 and today is that in 2009 the market had caved in and collapsed, and now we have the market near all-time highs. So it's a gigantic difference. It's 7 years later with massive amounts of debt added, massive amounts of money printing, a huge artificial wave of liquidity around the world, and unfortunately we're all going to pay the price for it.
For the central banks, though, I mean, they've been able to kick the can down the road. I mean, after 9/11 in 2008, 2011, when the dollar or the Treasury got downgraded by the S&P, they always seem to be able to just keep this thing going. Can they keep it going for another decade?
No, they cannot. I thought you were going to say for another month or two, or another quarter or two. Not for another decade. Absolutely not. It's all going to cave in long before that, Daniel. So you should be knowledgeable. I know you are, but you should be worried and you should be prepared. Everybody should be worried and be prepared.
When you say be prepared, how do you prepare?
Well, in many ways, it depends on who you are and where you are and your station in life. You know, the difference in what you should do if you're sitting in Colombia and if you're sitting in London are vastly different things. If you're 19 years old, it's a whole lot different from if you're 89 years old. So it depends on you and what you know. The simple advice is to stay with what you know, whoever you are, what you yourself know. Don't listen to me or some guy you hear on the internet or the TV. Stay with what you know. Otherwise, do nothing.
Jim, for negative interest rates, I mean, really, it's negative interest rates or 0 to 1%. So essentially, no one's getting anything from these bonds. What is the central banker's exit plan? I know that you are not a central banker. You're obviously, thank God you're not. But what do you think? What do you suspect? I mean, what's your speculation? What the hell are they thinking? What is their exit game?
Well, this was all an experiment for them. If you read some of the things they say, especially in unguarded moments, you'll see that they really didn't know what they were doing. They just thought, well, let's throw this up in the air and see if it works or not. They didn't know because nobody's ever done something like this before. But essentially, the most important thing, or a very important thing about this, Daniel, is this is the first time in recorded history when you've had central bank government setting out to destroy the people who save and invest. Throughout history, all of us were taught, save your money, invest for the future, and then in the end, you'll be okay. I know nearly everybody listening to this was taught that lesson. They wouldn't be listening right now. Unfortunately, all of those people are now being wiped out, you know, getting no interest. It doesn't matter whether you're a pension fund, endowment, insurance company, whatever you are, they're all getting wiped out these days. And that, historically, is going to be a disaster. You need the people who save and invest. You need that class of people more than anything else. Well, we're now ruining them, and unfortunately, it's going to be a very, very serious problem when it ends.
Jim, the war on cash, it seems to be accelerating. However, is there enough time for them to implement the war on cash where they phase out currency for them to get the maximum benefit of having a cashless society, or are they just really ramping this up too late?
Well, too late. Too late is difficult. No, it's not too late. They can get it done. Will they get it done in 2016? No. I mean, there's still millions, hundreds of millions of people in the world who don't have phones and bank accounts, et cetera, et cetera. So it will take a while to implement this, certainly worldwide or even nationwide in the United States. Are they going to do it? Yes, they're going to do it. It gives them more power and more control. And unfortunately for all of us, governments throughout history have tried for more power and more control. They like it. Power corrupts. I'm not the first person to figure that out. And they're going to continue to do it. Is it good for you and me? Absolutely not good for you and me. But it gives them more control, and unfortunately we're going to have to face that problem. And how they're going to exit from this, Daniel, unfortunately, I don't know. I don't know if they have a plan. Because I read all the stuff that they talk about, best I can see is they say, well, if nothing else, we can just let this all run off. You know, we buy a lot of bonds. Someday the bonds mature, and then everything goes back to normal. Well, that's 30 years it takes for all of that to happen. A, and B, it's not going to work that way, because eventually the market's just going to say to these guys, we've had enough. Enough is enough. We don't want your garbage paper anymore. And then then we're going to have the real crisis. The crisis that comes from governments or central banks trying to cool things off is one thing, but a crisis that the market imposes on the world, those are the really, really nasty things, and that's what we're going to face, because these guys have gotten us into a situation where there's no escape other than panic and problems.
You seem more specific. I've talked to you in the past. You've never wanted to put a date on it, understandably, but you have given a warning. However, talking to you right now, I'm getting the sense that there's a little more urgency, that people need to prepare, people need to be ready. Is there something specific that you're seeing that has you worried?
Well, I guess the main thing that has me more worried now is that the markets are telling us that there's something wrong. You know, the last few months, you know, in 2015 in the United States, twice as many stocks were down on the New York Stock Exchange as up. Only 1/3 of stocks on the New York Stock Exchange were up in 2015. Now, that was disguised. The averages were flat. They were flat, then down a little bit, but they were disguised by the fact that a few big companies went up all the time. You know, the names, Amazon, Microsoft, those stocks went up and hid the fact that the market was really deteriorating underneath. So there's the first sign. And then, of course, this year, everything is going down, nearly everything. So we know that the market knows, and the market is telling me it's getting closer and closer. Now, the central banks are doing what they always do. They're riding to the rescue and say, don't worry, we will save you, we will save you. The markets will rally. But the markets are telling me, hey, guys, we're getting close.
Is gold making 52-week highs part of that sign? And is it now a bullish sign for gold? Because I know you've actually been kind of on the sidelines for gold, at least last year and maybe the previous years I was talking to you.
Well, I haven't bought gold for over 5 years. I own a lot of gold, don't get me wrong, and silver. But I haven't bought any gold for a long time. And, you know, I'm on record in 2011 as saying it's going to go to 1,200. But it was below 1,200. Shows how smart I am. But no, I'm not buying gold at the moment. I still expect another opportunity to buy gold. It may not happen. It certainly may not happen. But if it doesn't, don't worry, Daniel. I own plenty of gold. I'm looking for new opportunities to buy gold. Something will let's say that the central bankers save us for a while, that the markets go up for a while. Normally, gold will go down, or often gold will go down in a scenario like that, especially if the central bankers do something dramatic, and then that would be the opportunity to buy gold, if you ask me. Daniel, the central bankers haven't given up yet. They're not. They still think they're smart. They still think they know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. They think they're smarter than the market. Let me tell you, they are not smarter than the market, even though they think they are. They all went to Ivy League schools, for goodness sake. You know, all the academics and bureaucrats, they think they're smarter than you and me, and certainly smarter than the market. They're not.
Jim, what you're just saying kind of almost reminds me of the election this year, where you've got the rejection of the politicians who have never really accomplished anything. But you have Donald Trump, who's a businessman who has accomplished a lot of things. And of course, this is not an endorsement or talk about Trump, but is the biggest problem, or one of the fundamental problems of the central bankers, that these people really haven't accomplished anything in life other than going to school.
Well, that is part of our problem. You put it very, very well indeed. They were great at school. You know, they were great in the playground. Some of them were great in the playground. But that's about the end of it. And by the way, Mr. Trump has accomplished things. He's been bankrupt 4 times. I mean, he's really, really, really made a lot of people suffer very badly. So he knows about bankruptcy. I'm afraid he'll bankrupt us again. But let's not get off on that.
Yeah, Jim, what are your favorite opportunities right now, either short or long?
Oh, mainly I'm sitting and watching. I don't really, what am I doing, if anything? I'm gearing up to try to get a opportunity. I want to invest in Nigeria. I want to invest in Kazakhstan. I want to invest in Iran. Not doing anything in either of those places at the moment, but I'm gearing up. Colombia, if I weren't so lazy, I would be doing something in Colombia at the moment. I am short in the U.S. I'm short the stocks we talked about before, the ones that never went down. Mm-hmm. I'm short junk bonds in the U.S., but these are positions that I put on before. I'm not adding to them at the moment. If the opportunity arises, I mean, the junk bonds go up a fair amount, I'm sure I know I'll add to that position. If gold collapses, I'll add to that position. But at the moment, I would like to short on this rally Europe. I'm going to short some Europe on this rally. That's probably the next action that I will be taking. But who knows, Daniel? I mean, you tell me what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. I can give you better answers.
As we wrap it up, what is the media missing about China? Because essentially they're talking about a bubble bursting, and you know, we do see the bridges to nowhere, we do see the ghost cities, but you're there. You've been to more countries than anyone. I mean, literally, you have Guinness Book of World Records for traveling to so many countries. What is the media, the talking heads? What are they missing about China?
Well, the main thing they seem to be missing is they don't quite understand the depth of the changes that are taking place there. China is the only country in the world that's been great 3 or 4 times. Great Britain was great once, Rome was great once, Egypt was great once. China's been great 3 or 4 times for whatever reason, I don't know. They've also had catastrophe and total collapse 3 or 4 times, but every time they're the only country which has turned around and risen to the top again. In my view, that's what's happening again. That does not mean, Daniel, there won't be many disasters and setbacks along the way. In the 19th century, we were growing to be the great country of the 20th century, but we had a horrible civil war. We had 15 depressions with a D. We had massacres in the streets. We had very few human rights. We had little rule of law. You could buy and sell congressmen. Well, you could still buy and sell congressmen, but in the 19th century, they were cheap. You could buy 3 or 4 for the price of 1 today. So we had many problems. China will have many problems as it rises. There does seem to be some property problems now from overbuilding. But I would also point out, I have been watching property overbuilding for 30 years. I remember the first time I went. I said, who's going to use these hotels? Who's going to use these buildings? Well, China, for many historic reasons, has been a disaster for a few hundred years. So there's a lot of pent-up demand, a pent-up need, but there will be problems going along. You talk about the ghost cities. Well, somehow or another, those ghost cities keep getting filled up in the past 30 years, one after another. The government has said that now they're going to let people go bankrupt. So there will be bankrupt, which will be good for China, be good for the world if they mean it. So when you start seeing people go bankrupt in China, it will scare a lot of us. But China has gigantic reserves, a lot of money saved up for a rainy day, and huge pent-up needs. I mean, you look around your life, most Chinese don't have nearly the life that you have, whether it's travel or physical goods, anything. So there's a huge need in China, education, healthcare, you name it, and they need it. So there will be setbacks, there will be problems along the way, which is good. China has said they're going to let people go bankrupt. In 2008, the world had a problem. Fortunately, China had a lot of money saved for a rainy day. They started spending it, which is one reason the world recovered. But this time around, Daniel, the Chinese have debt themselves. I mean, it's not like America, it's not like Portugal or something, but they have a lot of debt themselves, so they're going to see some problems too. But I assure you, I'm long China and I'm short the U.S. I don't see that the Chinese situation, while there will be problems, is better than what's happening in the U.S.
Jim, for people who are listening to the show right now and they're interested in reading one of your books, kind of put you down into a corner here. What two books could you suggest for someone right now to go read that you've written that would be very relevant for them today in today's markets?
Well, Street Smarts, mainly because that's the most recent one. It's called Street Smarts, Adventures on the Road and in the Markets, and it basically discusses all of this and much more, including how I sort of came from the backwoods of Alabama to suddenly living here in Asia with two blue-eyed kids who speak Mandarin, perfect Mandarin, and why I'm here. It's a long way from the backwoods of Alabama to here. I guess the other one would be a gift to my children, just because everybody who has children will understand it, and their children will understand it. But it's written for my children, but my children will not understand it till they're in their 20s or 30s. It's really for grown-ups more than for children. How some of the things that I see about how to live one's life and how to survive, much less be successful. So I guess those are the two where I was throwing in my travel books too, but you said only two. So let's stop there.
Well, yeah, and the children's book, A Gift to My Children, without a doubt my favorite book. I have 3 small children myself, and it's just great. Last question, sir. If you could only hold one investment for the next 5 years, what would it be?
The next 5 years, it would probably be sugar or maybe rice. Probably sugar. If we're talking about today's prices, I mean, if gold were under 1,000, I would say gold. But if you're talking about something to buy today at the market, well, sugar comes to mind. Maybe the ruble or sugar, I would say.
Well, Jim, you've been very generous with your time. Thank you so much, sir. Anyone who would like to learn more about Jim Rogers, go to jimrogers.com or go straight to jimrogers.com/books, and you can buy all of his books, specifically the 2 he just noted. Jim, thank you again, sir.